All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to unpack something really powerful from our source material. We're talking about what it actually means to be a conqueror through Christ. You know, how to tap into that divine strength.
So let me ask you something right off the bat. Have you ever felt like you're in a fight, but you can't even see your opponent? You know that feeling? Like the real struggle, it isn't the obvious stuff, but something deeper, something invisible. Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore.
And you know what? That's precisely the kind of challenge that the text we're digging into focuses on. It takes our everyday conflicts and reframes them. It says, hey, this isn't just about your bad day at work. It's about something else entirely, an unseen spiritual struggle.
And here it is, the verse that just turns everything on its head. This quote from Ephesians, wow. It completely reframes how we're supposed to look at conflict. It draws this incredibly sharp line in the sand. It's saying, look, your real fight, it's not against other people or your tough circumstances, what it calls flesh and blood. No, the text argues the battle is against these unseen spiritual forces of evil.
So let's break that down, because it's a huge distinction. On the one hand, you've got the flesh and blood struggles. We all know these, right? Daily annoyances, that difficult person at the office, career setbacks, the usual stuff. But, and this is the key insight from the text, it argues that those things are often just the symptoms. It points us over to the other side, the spiritual forces, and says that's the real source of the battle. Things like the devil's schemes and these powers of a dark world.
Okay, so if the battle is spiritual, that raises a pretty big question, doesn't it? Where on earth do you get the strength to fight that? I mean, you can't just grit your teeth and power through it. And according to the text, you're not supposed to. The strength has to come from a source that is totally beyond yourself.
And the text gives us a very specific phrase for this, being in the Lord. Now that might sound like just, a religious saying, but it's describing something really specific. It's about making a deliberate shift, a conscious decision to rely on God's power, not your own. And that's the core idea right there. The strength isn't something you manufacture inside yourself. It's external. It flows from Christ to you.
This is so cool. To give us an even richer picture of the kind of power we're talking about, the source material points us to a Hebrew word, tsalah. This doesn't just mean like to get by or to manage. No. It means to succeed, to prosper, to completely and totally prevail. That's the kind of deep, profound victory that the text is connecting with this divine strength.
All right, so we've got the problem, the unseen struggle, and we've got the source of strength, God. But how do you actually connect the two? How do you access that power? Well, the text gives us this incredible, powerful metaphor. It's all about deliberately putting on a suit of divine armor. And this right here, this passage, is the main instruction manual. I want you to notice the verbs it uses. They're so active. Be strong, put on. This is not about passive belief, just kind of hoping for the best. It's a direct call to action to actively gear up and prepare for the conflict. So, what does that preparation actually look like in practice?
It's actually laid out for us in a really clear 4-part strategy. Let's walk through it. Step 1, be strong in the Lord. That's the foundational decision, right? To rely on His power. Okay. Step 2, put on the full armor. This is the actual spiritual prep work. Then, step 3, take your stand. You're not hiding, you're actively confronting the issue. And then finally, after all that preparation, step 4 is just to stand your ground. You've done the work, now you just hold firm.
But here's a crucial point. This isn't a one-and-done kind of deal. You don't just put the armor on once and you're good for life. The text makes it super clear that this is a daily practice. It's a mindset you have to consciously renew every single day. That's how you get what it calls the daily victory.
And to really drive this point home, the source brings up the incredibly powerful story of Job. I mean, talk about a test of faith. His question here, shall we accept good from God and not trouble? That question is presented as the ultimate crucible of faith. The text holds up his ability to keep trusting, even in the midst of unimaginable hardship, as the absolute key to this daily strength. So what does this actually look like in our day-to-day lives? The text lays out some really practical habits, things like making prayer a real priority, starting your morning just by thanking God for another day,
Really choosing to live by faith, not by your circumstances, which is easier said than done, right? And I love this one, relying on God's grace. The text says it compounds daily. Like interest in a bank account, it just grows stronger and stronger the more you lean on it.
So if we boil this whole thing down to one single, critical takeaway, what is it? What's the bottom line? It's simply this. True, lasting, prevailing strength, the kind of strength that can actually overcome these invisible battles, it comes from God, and from God alone. And that really brings us full circle, leaving us with a question to think about. Let's go back to that very first question I asked. What invisible battle in your own life, what struggle could this new perspective help you face in a totally different way? Something to reflect on. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.